filing of a lawsuit against and a legal settlement with Recology, the contractor for San Francisco's waste and recycling collection. This settlement will save San Francisco ratepayers $100 million and stems from our broad public integrity investigation that we are conducting with the Comptroller's Office in the wake of the arrest of former Director of Department of Public Works, Mohammed Nuru. Quite simply, Recology unfairly overcharged San Francisco ratepayers for garbage collection. This includes both commercial and residential property. Through our hard work, that money is being paid back. Nearly $95 million of the total will be refunded by Recology directly to ratepayers. And starting April 1, Recology will also lower collection rates to where they should have been, resulting in San Francisco ratepayers saving an additional $6 million over the following 3 months. That's more than $100 million that's either going back into the pocket of ratepayers or staying there. If you've been paying to have Recology pick up your trash and recycling, you're going to get a refund. The exact amount per ratepayer is going to depend on how long you've had your service and the type of service that you have. The average residential account ratepayer who had service from July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2021 is expected to get back or save a total of about $190 as a result of this settlement. Recology and its affiliate companies will refund San Francisco ratepayers for the overcharges plus 5% interest. If you currently have an account with Recology, they're required to get you your refund by September the 1st. Former customers are also eligible for reimbursement, and this settlement agreement requires Recology to do robust public outreach to contact former customers who are eligible for a refund. This agreement includes comprehensive oversight requirements, including that Recology provide monthly reports to the city on how much money has been refunded. Additionally, Recology will be paying a $7 million penalty to the city to settle this case. Finally, the settlement also includes a 4-year injunction prohibiting Recology from making any gift to a city employee or any contribution to a nonprofit at the behest of a city employee. While I'm pleased that this settlement will quickly make San Francisco ratepayers whole, it's unfortunate we find ourselves in this situation to begin with. This overcharge to ratepayers was a direct result of the cozy relationship and lax oversight of Recology that the Department of Public Works had under its former director, Mohammed Nuru. Part of our investigation has shown that despite a city law prohibiting gifts from restricted sources, Nuru regularly solicited funds from Recology for the benefit of himself and city employees. From 2016 to 2020, Recology and its affiliated companies, Sunset Scavenger and Golden Gate Disposal and Recycling, regularly provided gifts of money, meals, and accommodations to city employees, allegedly to influence city decisions affecting Recology. Some of the gifts were disguised as charitable contributions to nonprofits, but they would be doled out at Nuru's discretion for activities such as employee holiday parties hosted by Nuru himself and the former city administrator. Over the 4 years before Nuru's arrest, Recology funneled at least $60,000 through a nonprofit for the Public Works and General Services Agency holiday party. At the same time, the Director of Public Works was responsible for ensuring that the rate-making process for refuse collection was fair and accurate. And he would also make recommendations on whether to approve rate increases. The lawsuit filed today in San Francisco Superior Court stems from rate increases for Recology that Nuru recommended in 2017. As laid out in the court filing, Recology failed to accurately account for revenues they were slated to receive from ratepayers in their 2017 application for rate increases. The omitted revenues were not caught during the 2017 rate-making process. The underreporting of these revenues resulted in a recommended rate increase of more than 14%, when the actual revenues only supported an increase of about 7%. So the rate increase was about twice as high as it should have been. Although Recology disclosed the revenue error in 2018 to the Public Works Department, no action was taken by Recology or Public Works to publicly disclose or correct the error. Instead, Recology continued to collect the excessive rates from ratepayers for another 2 years. After I subpoenaed Recology in February 2020, the company began cooperating with our office's investigation. Counsel for Recology ultimately reported the rate error to the city attorney's office in December 2020. With this legal action, we are making San Francisco ratepayers whole and sending a clear message that cozying up to regulators won't be tolerated. Mohamed Nuru may have had his challenges keeping San Francisco streets clean, but he clearly excelled at cronyism, slush funds, and indifferent oversight. While ratepayers were taking a hit to their wallets, Mr. Nuru was soliciting money for lavish parties from the company he was supposed to be regulating. His conduct was egregious and shouldn't and won't be tolerated. San Francisco residents deserve nothing less. I want to note that after we began looking into Mr. Nuru's dealings, Recology itself was forthcoming and cooperative with our office's investigation into this matter. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Just as a quick reminder to the journalists participating in today's press conference, if you have questions, please enter them in the chat feature and identify your name and your news outlet. Okay, so our first question is from Joyce Cutler with Bloomberg Law. Her question is, why isn't Recology being debarred or otherwise prevented from seeking new contracts?
First, Recology has rights under the 1932 ordinance granting them exclusive franchise to be the trash collector for San Francisco. And that would have to, if that was going to be changed, it'd have to happen by a charter amendment. And they still operate in the city. So from a practical perspective, that's something that, someone may in fact look at about how they want to, do they want to determine how San Francisco trash is collected? But as a practical matter, Recology has rights and legal rights under the city charter. And they were forthcoming in our investigation once we started our discussions. And we think that getting $100 million back for San Francisco ratepayers and commercial residents and commercial businesses is something that is a real success. And what happens with future trash service in San Francisco is something that I'm sure policymakers will look into and debate.
The next question is one being asked by 3 different journalists, or a variation of this question, from Christian Captain at KTVU, from Joe Fitzgerald Rodriguez from KQED, and from Jackson Vanderbecken at NBC. Each has a question related to what is the likelihood of criminal charges being brought from other entities like the U.S. Attorney's Office or the District Attorney's Office stemming from our office's investigation.
Obviously, our investigation has been going on for quite some time, and we have said that it's continuing, and we're going to get at any of the root causes of things we think need to be addressed. The U.S. Attorney's Office has said the same thing, and so I can't comment on where they're at in their investigation, but they've been quite clear that their investigation is continuing. So I'm sure that they're looking at things, and I would refer you to the U.S. Attorney's Office to see if they have any update on the status of their investigation. I'm not going to comment on that, but they've been pretty clear that their investigation continues.
Next question is part of a multi-part question from Joe Fitzgerald Rodriguez at KQED. This segment deals with the question is, how many customers were affected by this scheme into the time frame?
Well, I would just say this, Joe, that obviously all residential customers and commercial customers were affected, because the rates that people are being charged is something that's being charged across the city. And so this applies to both residential and commercial customers, and not just existing customers, but there has to be robust public outreach to former customers. So it's something that's a citywide issue.
Just a reminder that if reporters do have questions, please provide them in the chat feature. The next question is a follow-up question from Joyce Cutler at Bloomberg Law. Her question is, will the city attorney's office be investigating what other behested payments were made on behalf of other elected officials?
We've always said that our investigation, we're going to take the facts wherever they lead us. So our investigation continues, and I'm not going to give details on the parameters of what it is we are looking at or what direction we're going, but we've been clear, just like the U.S. Attorney's Office has been, that our investigation is ongoing, it's far-reaching, and we will look to root out any untoward conduct wherever it is.
Okay, we'll take two more questions. If reporters have questions, please provide them in the chat feature.
If I might, John, I just want to have a follow-up to, Joe asked me, Joe Fitzgerald Rodriguez asked a question earlier about the numbers, and I gave a citywide response, but estimate about 160,000 ratepayers each year is our best estimate.
Next is a question from Matt Bigler at KCBS Radio. Matt's question is the settlement concurrent with the lawsuit being filed?
Correct.
The next question is from Joe Eskenazi at Mission Local. And Joe's question is, are there any individuals named in these filings?
No.
This is a follow-up question to an earlier one that you addressed. This is from Christian Kaftan at KTVU, and Christian asks, can you clarify, the suit has been filed, but it sounds like Recology has already agreed to terms. Will this still be to court for a judge to order further action?
No.
And this question is from Joe Eskenazi at Mission Local. His question is, who at Recology was deemed responsible?
We haven't deemed an individual, any individual responsible. There was a question earlier about whether we sued an individual, and the answer was no. We sued the corporate entities, and that's who ultimately is responsible, Recology and its affiliates. We make no allegation or judgment with respect to who within those entities was responsible.
One moment, please. This is a question from Matt Bigler at KCBS. Dennis, Matt is asking, do you characterize this as a scheme or a billing oversight that was not reported?
I'm not going to characterize it one way or the other. What is clear is that there was lax oversight that from Department of Public Works and others that allowed an unfair overcharging of San Francisco ratepayers. And that's why I filed this action under 17-200, the Business and Professions Code, which alleges unlawful and unfair business practices. That's what it encompasses. And my lawsuit was that they unfairly, under that statute, overcharged San Francisco ratepayers. And it was something that was known. And DPW did nothing about it. Recology knew about it at the time, did nothing about it until we subpoenaed them and launched our investigation. Then they came in and they were cooperative. So it was clear that lax oversight and a cozy relationship there allowed this to occur. And I'll have people term it what they want, but ultimately it was unfair to San Francisco ratepayers to the tune of about $100 million.
Okay. One more question here, Dennis. This is from Christian Kaftan again at KTVU. Christian asks, will you be seeking the contract for recycling and trash and compost collection to be rebid?
I have no intention of doing that. That's not within my purview.
Okay. There is a clarification question from Joe Fitzgerald Rodriguez at KQED. And this is the final question we're going to have time for today. Additional information, including court filings, will be posted on the city attorney's website, which is sfcityattorney.org. But the final question is from, as I indicated, Joe Fitzgerald, KQED. He asks, can you clarify why the lawsuit is being filed today if the settlement was reached? He says,
because that gives us the platform to reach the settlement. And that's the vehicle that we determined was best to utilize to reach the agreement that we reached. Mostly because there are also injunctive terms there as well. And it's not just a dollar amount, and that allows us the ability to enforce the terms of the settlement.
Okay, and with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. As I indicated, today's court filing, as well as a press release, will be available on our website. It's sfcityattorney.org. And if you have follow-up questions, feel free to contact the city attorney's press office, 415-972-9779. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.